Good morning. I'm happy to welcome you in Ukraine Media Center. My name is Elena Frolova, and today is July 15. And we start our day with the first press conference. Well, it will be more of a discussion even probably, and it will be related to the preparation of the first national team of cultural first aiders, realities and prospects. For the time being, we all know that the full-scale invasion of Russian Federation really put it as pressing issue. I mean, the preservation of cultural heritage, because one of the genocidal goals of Russia in this war is the eradication of our identity and our cultural heritage as DNA of this identity. According to the data from the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine, there are more than 1,000 documented cultural heritage objects that were either damaged or destroyed in 15 regions of Ukraine. The biggest number of such objects are in Donetsk, Kharkiv, and Kiev regions. So from what I understand, the initiative for training of such teams who could stabilize these cultural heritage objects is something that we're about to discuss with our guests. So joining us in our studio are Anastasia Bondar, Deputy Minister of Culture and Information Policy for Digital Development, Digital Transformation and Digitalization; Aruna, Francesca, Maria Gujral, Director General of ICCROM; Stefan Zotti, the head of the Cultural Heritage Group of the Directorate of European Commission for Youth and Sports; and Ihor Poshyvailo, Director at the National Museum of Revolution of Dignity, co-founder of Agency for Cultural Resilience; Aparna Tandon, Program Manager for ICCROM's First Aid and Resilience for Cultural Heritage Program; and Maryna Hlushko, participant of the training, employee of the Donetsk Regional Museum of Local History. So, Ms. Anastasia, I would like to give the floor to you. So you describe what is the situation with destruction and attempts to preserve the cultural heritage objects that exist in Ukraine for the time being. Good morning. Thank you very much. On the background of the full-scale invasion that is lasting for 2.5 years, the cultural heritage remains a part of our national identity, and it is facing multiple threats. The ministry continues documenting the damage and destruction of cultural heritage objects as a result of Russian aggression. Thus, within the period from the 24th of February 2022 until the 25th of June 2024, 1,085 cultural heritage objects were damaged, including 80 recently documented. So these cultural heritage objects were destroyed in 18 regions of our country. For the time being, in temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, there are more than 1,700,000 museum exhibits, and about 500,000 of them belong to those which belong to the State Museum Fund were evacuated. Being in consultation with our foreign partners, such as ICCROM, that created the network of more than 2,000 experts, rescuers of cultural heritage objects in more than 120 countries of the world. Minister of Culture Rostislav Karandev expressed an intention to establish the national team of national cultural heritage rescuers, and this initiative was supported by the representatives of European Commission and Directorate for Education, Youth and Sports. In parallel with that, the ministry and people's deputies continue their work on improvement and implementation of changes and amendments to legislation and need of its adaptation to Euro-integrational requirements and realities of the wartime. At the same time, we understand that we should take into account not only the fact of war, but also the fact that the tangible and non-tangible cultural heritage in Ukraine is affected by different factors, such as even heat that we experience today that may result in forest fires, floods, and man-made catastrophes that we experience as well. Also of impact is the significant movement of people in the territories affected by war. We understand that among those people, there are many specialists in the area of preservation of cultural values, which resulted in significant losses in terms of countries' capability to reduce the risks and to get prepared to such emergencies and to respond to crisis. Basically, all those factors resulted in launching a flagman project in coordination with our partners, ICCROM, improvement of capacity on planning the first aid and emergency help to the cultural values. So the task of this program was to improve the capability to respond to emergencies, plan restoration, and mitigation of risks for all of the forms of cultural values. And this year, within a couple of months, starting from April until July, 22 first experts underwent such training, and this is how we started establishing our specialized team of cultural values rescuers. Well, thank you very much. I just want to mention for our listeners that ICCROM is International Center for Study of the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property. So, Miss Aruna Francesca Maria Gujral, may I ask you about the experience of your organization in responding to such crisis situations like the ones that emerged in Ukraine? Have you ever faced challenges like this in your professional career, and how this training was going on? What was it made of, and to what extent it supports the growth of Ukraine's capacity to respond to emergencies? Thank you.
Thank you so much. In fact, I'd like to really thank you for this opportunity and to have me today. And if I hope my connection is stable and you can hear me quite well. And allow me to really kind of convey a vote of thanks here today, because it's really so important what we have done in Kiev in these past 2 weeks. So allow me to really sincerely thank Your Excellency, Miss Anastasia Bondar, the Deputy Minister for Digital Development, for the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine for her great involvement and passion and commitment. Of course, also to Mr. Stefano Zotti, the team leader for cultural heritage at the European Commission, for their vital support. And to Dr. Ihor Poshyvailo, Director General of the Maidan National Museum, for his great support and great commitment. This means a lot to me as Director General of ICCROM, having all my team on the ground with you today. And I think this media briefing is also giving us the possibility to reflect and again to bring my words of encouragement and thanks to all the participants. In fact, I'm so pleased to extend a warm welcome to each of you as we gather here to mark the conclusion of this very significant in-person training on first aid, early recovery and risk reduction of cultural heritage in times of crisis. This training is really crucial component of the international project on enhancing capacities in Ukraine for cultural heritage. This is so important for me to reflect and to really address my words to the first aider if I can. So my dear first aiders, over the past days, we have witnessed firsthand your extraordinary dedication and hard work. This training was designed to be hands-on, allowing you to directly apply your knowledge in real-world scenarios. I'm so delighted to notify that the team has produced outstanding concrete outputs, in fact, in a very short time, including a comprehensive report detailing recommended action for the short, mid, and long-term stabilization and restoration of heritage sites in Vyaziska. I'm so pleased, really, Fatima, that you have interacted with the communities near the church, which is extremely valuable aspect of our work, given the power of cultural heritage to build, strengthen, and unite communities. So the interaction informed a community-based recovery proposal, I know, and this prioritized the preservation of cultural heritage and aligns with the needs and aspirations of the local population. I'm so pleased to report that you have gained key practical skills to protect all types of heritage, movable, unmovable, intangible, in times of crisis. The methodology you have learned are field tested and codified into a comprehensive handbook and toolkit, providing you with the tools needed to effectively safeguard cultural heritage. My dear First Aider, you are now equipped to engage local government and other agencies and partners in planning holistic and resilient recovery strategies for heritage. Moreover, you are now equipped to collaborate with conflict-affected communities to protect endangered heritage, fostering dialogue and enhancing social cohesion in the process. As newly trained team, you will play a pivotal role in supporting the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy in developing a master plan for heritage recovery and rehabilitation. The plan, of course, will be nationally led and supported by international partners such as ICCROM. My dear participants, and also, of course, my dear ICCROM colleagues, I truly praise your dedication and hard work throughout this training. Your commitment to safeguarding Ukraine's cultural heritage is truly commendable. And of course, allow me to express my deep appreciation to the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine and to our esteemed partners, including, of course, the European Commission, Director General of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture, the Agency of Cultural Resilience, ACCURE, the Maidan Museum, and the Heritage Emergency Rescue Initiative, HERE, for their vital support and very key and productive collaboration. Together, we have made a significant development in safeguarding Ukraine's rich cultural heritage, which acts not only as a testament of Ukraine's past, but also as a beacon guiding its prosperous future. Let us continue to work together to conserve, preserve, and safeguard, and celebrate our shared heritage and build a more resilient and inclusive future for all. As we conclude this training, I encourage each of you to continue your efforts with the same passion and dedication. Our collective endeavor to protect and restore cultural heritage will definitely benefit generations to come and will undeniably bring durable impact and positive and sustainable trajectory of change for greater progress, well-being, growth, and prosperity. I profoundly thank you from the bottom of my heart for your full dedication and your outstanding commitment. Thank you so much.
Міс Гуджрал, одне коротке питання перед тим.
Well, Ms. Gujral, just one small question before we proceed to the following questions. So what is the plan for continuation of training? What is the number of people that you plan to have trained within the framework of this project in Ukraine?
Sorry, the connection is very bad. I can't hear anything. I cannot hear
My
from the
question
Maybe
was.
Aparna, you can support.
My question.
Then let's proceed to this question maybe a little bit earlier. I would like to give a word to Mr. Stefan Zotti, the Group for Preservation of Cultural Values. Mr. Zotti, can you please tell us in what way the European Commission and European Union is involved in this project and maybe some other projects that would support the stabilization and restoration of cultural heritage in Ukraine?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Talking immediately after Aruna is sometimes difficult. She said nearly all of it. So let me, first of all, before then answering your question, let me first of all join Aruna in thanking all of you. Thanking, first of all, the team of ICCROM and the leadership of Aparna for the great work done over the last 2 years on the ground. Thanks a lot to the ministry, Anastasia, also for your personal support for all the different activities done, and in particular for this training. Thanks to the Maidan Museum, Ihor, very much appreciated what was done. But first of all, please allow me to give a warm thank you to all the participants, the 25 practitioners who benefited from this training. And when I thought over the last 2 weeks, when ICCROM was so very kind as to share pictures here and there and then some reports. Looking at you, at the participants, I saw pride, courage, determination to really make a difference. And if I may say so, the protection of cultural heritage is very often a challenging and difficult task. Think about natural disasters, etc. But it's a completely different situation you are dealing with. And for me personally, 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure, together with Anastasia, Aruna, to welcome you at the launch. It was a moving situation to me, personally, when seeing you in a shelter, which gives an idea how difficult the situation is. And Anastasia was just talking about the number of destroyed cultural heritage in the Ukraine. So for the European Commission, it's of utmost importance to support Ukraine with every possible instruments at hand in the protection and in the longer term, hopefully in the recovery of its rich cultural heritage. And you were asking about different actions. I think, or I'm proud to say that our Directorate General, the Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, in addition to many other Commission initiatives supporting the Ukraine, also contributed over the last 2 years, be it through the printing of Ukrainian school books, be it via the Erasmus program and the support of Ukrainian students, but also teachers in the Ukraine, as well as those who temporarily live in other European countries, but obviously also need to benefit from a solid education for whatever their future will hold. In the cultural field, and the Deputy Minister was already referring to, we're obviously confronted with this tragic situation of a voluntarily destruction of cultural heritage from the Russian side. So the training now offered by ICCROM and supported by the European Commission, I think plays a crucial role in our efforts to support practitioners in the Ukraine to better protect and help to certain way, and hopefully in the future also restore cultural heritage. But there is also a political side behind. For more than 1 year, we are now working in a expert group with experts from the Ukraine and from Europe. And I'm very happy to see 2 members of our esteemed expert group on the panel, Ihor and Aparna. This expert group aims at providing concrete recommendations to the Ukrainian government on the national, but also on a regional level, but also to the European Union and its member states on how to best support Ukraine in protection, recovery of cultural heritage in Ukraine. And I'm really I'm asking and urging Aparna and Ihor also to come up with concrete learnings from these 2 weeks for the work of the expert group. I think it would be very, very valuable also to learn from the practice you gained from what you learned from the 25 participants and to feed this practical knowledge also in the work of the working group. You know you will be heard, and I think this is an important additional element given that we are quite now well developed and very optimistic that we should be able to present these recommendations after the summer. So I think now a perfect time to also learn from the practice and see what concrete learnings from this training activity could be taken up for further recommendations. So again, thanks a lot, ICCROM, Ministry, Museum, the participants. I very much hope that this was a first, definitely not the last activity in this regard, which could strengthen also the possibilities of practitioners in Ukraine to restore the rich and important cultural heritage of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава. Дуже дякую і дуже приємно, коли ми бачимо.
Glory to the heroes. Thank you very much. It's real pleasant to see synergy of different institutions, including European, international, Ukrainian institutions that jointly support the preservation of cultural heritage. Ms. Tandon, you're the program manager for ICCROM First Aid and Resilience for Cultural Heritage Program. And for what I understand, you are the direct organizer of this training. Can you please tell us in more detail what was the training made of, how was it structured, and what is the plan for development of this program in Ukraine? Thank you.
Greetings to my fellow panelists, Deputy Minister Bondar, and Director General of ICCROM, and Stefan Zotti, Ihor Poshyvailo, and Maryna, also our participant from this training. So as you said, this training was based, as has been already described, that this is a training which was very intensive. It had started, as the Deputy Minister pointed out, in April 2024. And after 3 online sessions, which were lasted almost a week long, but with some breaks in between, we met in person here in Kyiv for 10 days without break, and very hands-on, working from the very beginning, first to understand how we can take anticipatory action, preventive action to protect heritage from disasters or conflicts, from natural and man-made hazards like floods, missile strike, and what can be done to improve the preparedness, how can we work with the state emergency services, and then also on the ground with the demonstrations, also assessing damage to the Vyazivka church, and going on site to evacuate some icons, to also how to handle damaged heritage, preserve it, put it in a temporary storage to secure, and also plan recovery, long-term recovery, working together with communities, also understanding how these communities are valuing their heritage, how would they like to get access to it, and how quickly we can revive this access. And this was the work of our training, very intense back-to-back sessions. Many national experts contributed to it, many international experts were here with us on site, also joined online, and we had a multidisciplinary group of participants, very experienced from 11 oblasts. 23 participants from 11 oblasts.
And what is the number of participants that is planned to be trained, or was it like the test training?
The number of participants that have been trained are 23. Professionals have been trained. This will be the first national team of cultural first aiders. And it is our hope that they will be training regional teams in their respective oblasts, as well as assisting the ministry with any kind of a project that would be aimed at stabilizing damaged heritage, providing first aid to it, securing it, conducting damage and risk assessments, as well as planning its full recovery. So we hope that there will be future projects which this team will be undertaking, but they will be also multiplying this capacity at regional and local level, at the Romada level.
Thank you. Пане Ігорі Poshyvailo, да, ви є засновником.
Thank you, Mr. Ihor Poshyvailo. You are the co-founder of Agency for Cultural Resilience and director at the National Museum of Revolution of Dignity. And for what I understand, you were one of the participants of the training. Can you please tell us what was the plan? How did it develop? And how do you see the way we can develop this capacity? Because as we've just heard, the hope is that the participants, the graduates of the training, will improve this capacity, develop this capacity in the regions. Thank you very much. It's good that I can now present not some abstract project, but some specific step that will allow us to preserve cultural values in Ukraine according to international standards that were tested during other conflicts and emergencies, and on the other hand, to improve the capacity of Ukrainian cultural sector in cooperation with local governments and experts. What's important is the context. This training has not emerged just out of the blue, so to say. I'm happy that European Commission and ICCROM supported this project along with the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy. When the war started in 2014, my colleagues were paying attention, were drawing attention to this threat. First, it was Crimea that was occupied, and as a huge number of cultural values was stolen, pillaged, and systemically destroyed by Russian Federation over there. And when a threat of occupation of other regions of Ukraine emerged, we've established a headquarters, and we started thinking, how can we better help the state of Ukraine? How can we organize the cultural sector? And back then, we've identified the need for expert knowledge, and during the years 14, 15, 16, my colleagues were taking part in international trainings organized by ICCROM, Smithsonian Institute, and Prince Claus Foundation. And this need even has grown bigger with the beginning of the full-scale invasion. We've established a number of trainings. We've developed training materials. We were in touch with our foreign partners, and in this project, the role of ICCROM is difficult to overvalue. And ICCROM is intergovernmental organization, and Ukraine has become a part of it back in 2016. Our government responded to this need, and it's logical that systemic work has started back then, and this training is an attempt to gather that international experience that may be actual for Ukraine, and this is why the international trainers are here for a reason. The team was on the ground here in Ukraine after the beginning of the full-scale invasion. We were going to the fields, we were talking to our colleagues, and one of the needs was the knowledge, not only expert theoretical knowledge, but also the practical skills. And it's good, by the way, that in this training, there is a representation of participants. I was not a participant, I was a co-organizer, and in this context, I'm happy to see the response of all of the regions to this opportunity. Those regions where this need for systemic restoration and preservation of cultural values is urgent, like Kyiv, Mykolaiv, Kherson, Zaporizhia, other regions, and the representatives of the local governments, of the departments, were represented on this training. Two museums from Kharkiv, a local history museum from Donetsk region, academia from universities. So there was an expert environment, so to say, that using other important steps, and I think that the role of the state, of the government, is decisive here. may establish the national team, the creation of which we declare today is just the first step, and this team may not only respond to the emergencies in Ukraine, but they may fulfill a role of peacekeepers in other hotspots. And in the same way, Ukrainian team may be engaged by UNESCO or ICCROM to rescue operations in other countries. And what's also important is that this training, it was shortened down to 10 days. Well, usually it's 4 weeks, and the plan was 14 days, but still we understand that cultural heritage experts in Ukraine are real busy. A lot of them are mobilized to the armed forces of Ukraine, and this context, the training resulted to be very dynamic, intense, and to me it seems that the establishment of this team of cultural heritage rescuers, they will actualize the need to find efficient instruments for preservation of cultural values. For example, we discussed the establishment of a unit in the armed forces in Ukraine, the warriors who have this profession of our colleagues. So it will be a specialized unit in the armed forces, specialized unit of cultural rescuers among the civilians. And these synergies that you've mentioned is decisive. So there is a big hope that this initiative will be expanded. There will be networks established in the regions, in the oblasts, and we've witnessed a huge need among the participants, the need for knowledge, the need for self-organization, the need for support on part of the government and international organizations. So once again, I want to appreciate the input of all of the organizers, ICCROM, Ministry of Culture, European Commission, the team of Maidan Museum, the team of Agency for Cultural Resilience, Mr. Ihor. For what I understand, we're talking about such a state emergency service in the area of culture. A lot of people see the work of our rescuers who keep rescuing people on a daily basis, restoring infrastructure and so on. And now here we're talking about such sophisticated things when you don't only have to clear the debris, but you have to understand how to preserve and to restore that object of cultural heritage. Well, from your pictures, I can see that you had missions in the fields, and the participants of the training were restored in charge in Vyazivka. So can you please tell us how those works will be done? Well, you've mentioned the emergency service for a reason, because the representatives of this service were the participants of our training. Well, and we compare ourselves, well, to state emergency service, but also to just like medical first aid, because we just need to make sure that the post-recovery happens at less cost. And this training is important because it's not only made up of theoretical sessions. Yesterday, the participants got important international experience. They've discussed their experience and Ukrainian realities, and on the very next day, they were supposed to implement or to practice their skills in the fields, so to say. I was taking part in a number of such trainings, and in many cases, it was in Netherlands and United States, but we were training in simulations. In Ukraine, unfortunately, we don't need simulations. But on the other hand, the real situation allows the participants to test the real situation, because it's no simulation. That's the real cultural heritage object. And local communities, stakeholders, actors, all parties involved. You know, we were visiting the church in Vyazivka, Zhytomyr Oblast, the Church of Nativity, made of wood that was destroyed on the 7th of March, within the first days of aggression, very close to border with Belarus. And all of the participants, they really felt the story of this charge that remained wounded. And we've also noticed that it's not only the war that destroys, but it's also indifference, the lack of resources, and we need to understand what we can do today to restore this object of cultural heritage in future. So first, we were assessing the condition of that wooden charge. We were analyzing a broader context, who may be a partner, who is responsible, what is the context, and in line with contextual analysis, we were developing the plan of actions and implementing stabilization activities in order not to produce harm on the cultural heritage. And our task was to leave that place in better condition. And in coordination with local government, local community, we've stabilized those movable cultural property, such as icons and interiors, to the local community. And with their help, we've created a shelter, a coverage for them. We've built the structural elements to protect those movable objects. So we had 3 days of intense field work. It was real difficult. It was difficult due to the weather conditions, due to the absence of previous skills. And it was important to have the representatives of this expert community who may not work in the fields, but who may be able to help organize the teams like that in other regions. Thank you. Well, Ms. Maryna, I would like to ask you, you were the part of this training, you were the participant, and you are an employee of the Donetsk Regional Museum of Local History. Well, what was your impression? What were the skills that you've mastered there, and how are you going to implement them in future? Because Mr. Ihor mentioned that those changes should come from the bottom, from the lowest level, so to say. Thank you very much. I would like to say that Donetsk Regional Museum of Local History was, so to say, lost in year 2014, but there were branches, and it was re-registered in the territory under Ukrainian control, and starting from 2016, it started working quite actively, and it continues working now. And on behalf of all the participants of our training, I would like to express the words of appreciation to organizers, ICCROM and our Ministry of Culture and Maidan Museum. And I need to mention that the training course was real intense. We had both online and offline meetings. First offline meeting happened 11 days ago. We were working real intensely, starting from 8:30 and ending at around 1900. As Mr. Ihor has mentioned, we were going out in the field, and it allowed us, this intense pace allowed us to fully, so to say, submerge into those techniques provided by ICCROM. We were working in safe conditions. We were working as an expedition where we were able to implement, to practice our skills. We can now confidently use those skills in our everyday routine work. And I would like to mention that it's important that together with the experience of our international trainers, there was also a representation, well, our Ukrainian colleagues, the restorators from the museums, they've presented their experience of preservation of cultural values that allows us to expand this knowledge and international skills to bring them closer, so to say, to our conditions. So what are you planning to do? Well, our team, those participants who have graduated, we never met each other before, but we've made friends with each other, and we've understood how we can work together. And we've created this team, having planned a number of meetings to plan our work. I'm sure that for Donetsk Oblast, this team will be extremely important, well, just as well as for other regions. And I really appreciate this opportunity to become a part of this event. Thank you very much. If we have any questions on the floor, we are ready to respond them. If not, then I will ask a couple of questions myself. Well, Miss Anastasia, I think it will be a question to you. So can you please tell us whether there is an overall strategy for preservation and restoration of cultural heritage? Does the ministry work on something like that? And to what extent projects like this are important for Ukraine in terms of preparation for future recovery? Well, as I've mentioned, the ministry and people's deputies and the partners, we all work in coordination. We all work together on finalization of the existing legislation to have it reviewed, amended, and adapted to current realities to understand to what extent we can integrate the newly created quick response teams in Ukrainian legislation so they can efficiently work in the fields. And the representatives of law enforcement and state emergency service were invited for reason because we understand there are restrictions in some areas. Well, if there is a missile incoming, the access to the site, to the emergency site, would be restricted for the access of non-military. And basically this work, this cooperation should continue at the level of the ministry so we can overcome those obstacles and work in coordination in those emergency sites for the sake of preservation of cultural values. Well, I would like to add about the importance of coordination of our activities. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we were developing the procedures like how we can organize a fruitful work of international organizations, central government, expert community, cultural institutions, and those procedures are already developed now as perfect models. And what's important now is the initiative of the Ukrainian government on implementation of those protocols, those procedures in our legislation, so they're harmonized with European legislation, so we can engage our partners' resources, both financial and human, because the scale of damage is incredible. Ukraine would not be able to restore everything just by itself. Well, the time of our press conference is running out, so if any of the panelists wants to add a couple of words, so I'm inviting you to do so. Ms. Tandon, how about you?
Thank you. This has been an interesting interaction. And I would just like to say that we really think that Ministry has extended support to ICCROM and European Commission and ICCROM and Medan in this initiative. And we thank the Ministry for these ongoing efforts in strengthening capacities for first aid, recovery, and risk reduction of heritage here in Ukraine. And we would like to really see that this team can now provide the benefits of this training to those frontline communities who are striving to safeguard their heritage and which is at the core of Ukraine's national identity, as well as is a tool, an instrument for peace and resilience. So I hope that this initiative will fast track and will have a cascading impact and will bring more capacity to these frontline areas. And I also hope that there will be greater interagency coordination and cooperation between state emergency services, the national disaster management authorities, and also the police and cultural heritage sector. And ICCROM will be working steadfastly with its international partners to continue strengthening this initiative. The team that has newly qualified will now join the network of 2,000 plus cultural first aiders, which is international global, as Ihor has said. And we hope that this team will bring its experience to this international network, which spans over 120 countries and all our member states of ICCROM. So on behalf of our Director General and all the other partners from European Commission, I really thank the Ministry and the Median Museum and ICCROM for this, for ensuring this great initiative to, and its success, and making sure that it could take place now in this crucial time. Thank you.
Якщо в наших
Well, if our online participants have no comments, so let's wrap up our press conference. Thank you very much. What we observe in many areas of our life is that the unification of efforts, joining efforts of the expert community, civil society, and government is the pledge of our potential victory in this war. Thank you very much for taking part in this project. I really hope that this network will be growing, and the efforts that will be taken on national and regional level will be growing, because it's all in our best interest, the preservation of cultural heritage. The interest for study of culture is growing in Ukraine, and hopefully we will have something to pass on for our generations to come, thanks to the efforts of such different people as you. Thank you very much. Thank you for all, to all of our online spectators.